Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop with Dylan Rose from Flywater Travel, and welcome back to
Gettin Salty.
Thanks so much for coming down today.
Of course, thanks for having me.
You bet.
Always
Appreciate
fun
you
to come
making the
down
time. Dylan's a great friend of ours from Flywater Travel, and appreciate you taking the time to talk to us a little bit about travel this morning. So,
Of course.
As far as this segment goes, we're talking about tropical saltwater fishing basically, and that's kind of your bag.
That's
over
what
there.
I do. Yep, I
Yeah.
do that every day as Flywater. You bet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of questions, especially this time of year, when it's freezing and we're having like a crazy return to winter here on the West Coast. Tell me a little bit about talking to a first-time traveler and someone who's just sort of exploring, saltwater travel for the first time.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of fun. There's a big population of fishermen and anglers out there that are looking to take their trout fishing to the next level, and graduate to what I call the fly fishing big leagues, and that's the saltwater, skinny water flats fishing for bonefish, tarpon, permit mainly, and becomes a curiosity, I think, for people fishing freshwater over time, and then eventually they want to jump in to take that next step and go on a warm tropical saltwater trip. And so what I do is help them go to the right place at the right time of year with the right equipment, and that's really all there is to it.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about when they're deciding. Is there a lot of as far as logistics and all that? Because I feel like when I talk to people, they can be a little overwhelmed with just the logistics of it and getting there and cost and all that. So
yeah, I mean it's a web of considerations to think about in terms of where you go.
And quickly, I'll just say too. I mean, I think that's a bit of a barrier. I know it was for me a little bit. Before I started working with you guys, just kind of that kind of overwhelming feeling. But you guys really just make it so easy. But as far as choosing like that destination,
it can be daunting. Luckily, the beauty of what I do is that I've personally visited and fished everywhere that I book. And so when I help anglers go someplace, I've been there, I've fished with the guides, the boats, the water. I really have a good feel for what it is they're getting into. And so we ask pointed questions to them, and they're designed to kind of help narrow the fleet of all those places into a singular spot that meets their goals, and be it fishing goals or accommodation and meal goals or non-angling activity goals, just to help them dial in the experience that they want and to get them in the right place to give them that experience. So that's really the name of the game, and typically what we find is that we start with bonefish, and anglers that are coming into the saltwater for the first time and making the jump from fresh to salt do well with going to a bonefish spot. So that's typically where I like to start.
It's really funny that you say trout fishing as you did in the beginning there, because I feel like it's so similar. I feel like it is like the bone fishing is kind of like the pinnacle kind of dry fly fishing in a way, and that you bring that element of sight into it, and like working a pot of fish with a dry fly. It's so similar, but it definitely is more challenging. So it's not. I guess we could say it's not totally removed, like a totally different type of fishing, but
no. And it is challenging, but as we all know, we've been humbled by trout too. So I mean, it's just a different type of game. But I think where the challenge comes in and the differences come in is that you're actively sighting the fish, seeing it cruise across the flat, and they're spooky, and they can be tough to get a fly in front of in the right spot because they're so wary.
For sure.
And then also just getting them to bite the fly, hooking them up. You've got a fish that maybe is 18 inches, and it will accelerate from 0 to 35 miles an hour in that 18 inches, the length of its body.
That's insane.
And so you have trout that maybe are 18 inches, but they just do a different thing, and they tax the gear in a much different way. And so when you hook that first bonefish and you are instantly connected to this just rocket going out the flat and putting a deep bend in your 8-weight, it can be super exciting and very challenging too. So
that's cool.
That's the I think that's the addictive part about it.
So travel, logistics, getting there, cost, and kind of satisfaction with the trip. Where do all those? Do you have a couple of favorite places that you really like?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I just got back from my 4th trip to Christmas Island,
Sweet.
and that place just blows my mind every time I go there. And what I really love is walking the flats, and that's where you go to do that. And I know you've been there as well, and you can speak to that. And so, walking on a hard sand flat, being on your feet, sighting the fish, putting the fly in the right spot, teasing it into eating, and then hopefully eventually having that culminate into a nicely landed fish is what it's all about for me. And that's that place may be better than any others in the world to go and do that. So Christmas Island for sure.
Yeah, I felt that way when I went out there. It was a really wild and cool experience, and felt like it was pretty simple too. Pretty simple to get my head around getting out there and stuff.
Shorter casts and really great guides.
Yeah.
Responsive fish. It's the largest atoll in the world, so you've got a huge area, and you, for the most part, really avoid any kind of pressure situation with the fish. So they respond nicely, and you've got great guides on your shoulder, and you're on your feet, so there's not a splashing effect with a boat like you would see in some other areas that would scare the fish.
Yeah.
You can just sneak right up to them, and it's really more like hunting and stalking than it is fishing at times.
Cool.
You're out there actively hunting the fish, and
cool.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, we get a lot of inquiries about Christmas Island, and I would totally agree with you there as far as that first foray into fly fishing. So a little bit about variety. So I know in Christmas Island there's a couple of species, but I know there's some places in Mexico and in Central America that are pretty easy to get to too, where you get more of a variety. Do you get a lot of first-timers asking about variety of species?
Of course, yeah. Some people want to go on the trip and really kind of take a throw at anything that moves mentality, and I love that too. And Ascension Bay is a great place to do that.
Cool.
Flying to Cancun is relatively easy. There's lots of flights. They're affordable. It's an easy hop down to Punta Allen as a jumping off point for Ascension Bay to the south. And it's bonefish, it's permit, it's tarpon. You can split up the day typically and say, okay, I want to catch bones the first half of the day and really chase permit second half of the day. And of course, you've always got the opportunity in that area for a Grand Slam, which is
sweet.
Yeah, which is exciting, and that's rare, but does happen quite often. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, man, that answers a lot of my questions. I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it now.
Look it up and go.
Totally.
I'm ready.
Well, Dylan, thanks so much for coming down today.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.
Anytime,
Dylan Rose from Flywater Travel, great friend of ours. And so you can certainly call the shop and we can get you started. We've worked with Dylan on many of these destinations, and we know a bit enough to kind of get you whet your appetite a bit, but then we definitely get you right over to Dylan to talk more in depth about it and create the booking. So we really appreciate you coming down today, Dylan.
Cool. Thanks, man.
And
appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Anytime.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.